very happy for you to sit in between us.
I want attacking purposeful football all the time, and providing you had it up in that quarter, we had a real chance of winning it in that quarter. Now we've got our backs against the wall, we've got to fight.
Absolutely nailed it.
We're at the final bye rounds for 2015, so we thought we'd have a look and see how the Sydney Swans are travelling now that they're having a week off. No, they've just had their week off.
Just had their week off.
Just having their week off. They're playing Richmond this weekend. So halfway through the season, they're sitting third with a game in hand, so really second at 9-2. Would you say that's above par or par?
Yeah, I think that's probably par for them. I wouldn't have expected that they would have anticipated who they were behind in the ladder.
Yeah.
But I think the spot is about true to form for Sydney.
I'll put them as, I mean, they're sitting third, but it's really second. 1 or 2 is where you probably expect them to be at this stage of the year.
Yeah.
They're travelling along well. They haven't really extended themselves in too many games.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's usually the sign of a very confident premiership contending team.
Well-oiled.
Yeah, just no hassles, you know.
And it's what they've done for the last couple of years.
Yep.
The best win for the year?
Got to be Hawks with a G.
It's got to be Hawks with the G. Like we said many times, returning to the scene of the crime. You could say that they inaccuracy didn't help the Hawthorn, but at the end of the day, you only play against the opposition.
That's exactly right.
And 5 goals to none in the first quarter said a lot.
Yep.
And 3 goals in the last 3 minutes, essentially. And Jared McVeigh had a massive hand in that.
And I mean, just the importance of playing Hawthorn with the Swans and that whole rivalry, you know.
Yeah, and where they're going to finish. I mean, everyone tips those 2 teams to be top 4 by the end of the year. And at the minute, only one of them is.
Yep. And it was just a good confidence booster for Sydney because you're looking at Hawks. Everyone was waiting for the ladder to sort of sort itself out and people to fit in where they are supposed to belong.
Or where people expect them to.
Yeah, but it turns out it's legit.
Absolutely. And there's no drop-off. I mean, they haven't really lost any players from last year. So they would have had a lot of players rocking up in that game that were part of the demolition of the grand final.
Yeah.
So get a chance to exercise some demons
and I mean,
out of that one.
And I mean, they're 9-2, so with only 2 losses.
And they weren't. They were both close losses.
Yeah.
So which was their worst loss? It's either the Freo or it's Bulldogs.
Yeah, I had the Bulldogs because I would have thought that it was a team who, kind of a young team and playing good footy. You would hope that you can put a strategy in place to shut that team down and just look to do a classic Sydney grind out of that team, which they didn't do.
It was funny. It's another wet day up in Sydney.
Yeah.
And Sydney, haven't lost many games in the last 2 to 3 years, but they've lost a lot of games in the wet.
Yeah.
I'm pulling this out of my arse, but I reckon out of the last 3 years, they've lost maybe 10 games, and 7 of them have been in the wet. Something like that.
And it's been whenever you're playing Sydney or you're watching the Sydney game and it starts raining, you think, oh, well, this is playing into Sydney's hands.
And it used to be.
Yeah.
It was that, grind it down into a stoppage and away we go. But you can almost say that Freo, obviously it's not a bad loss, or it's hard to have a good loss, but it's almost worse because the Bulldogs getting up. Well, I mean, any team can have their day.
Yep.
And you had a down day while they had an up one. That's what happens. But Freo is somebody that's going to be there at the end of the season, and they just ground out a win. But not many people go over to Perth and play Freo and expect to come home with the 4 points. So
no,
it's almost an expected one.
Yeah, and I think... hang on, no, scratch that.
Scratch that. Yep. So who have you got the top 3?
Top 3, I mean, with Sydney, it's tough because they've got a good spread of contributors.
It's just a spread, isn't it?
So, trying to narrow it down, I've said of Hanbury, Parker and Kieran Jack. Just, you've got your regulars who've been doing it a lot, and I think those ones are the ones that just kind of stood out for me.
Look, I've got Hanbury and Parker as 1 and 2. I think they're a clear 1 and 2. Parker is their reigning best and fairest, and that might have caught some people by surprise last year.
Yep.
But he's backed it up and he's improved on this year.
Yeah.
Hanbury as well. He's averaging over 30 touches a game. He runs hard and, he's got some guts.
And doing that good in and under work for the Swans as well to set him up out of clearances.
And look, the third one, you could have said Kennedy, you could have said Franklin, you could have said McVeigh.
Yep.
They've all been good. So it has been that real even spread across.
Yep. And even Goods had a bad start, but really turned it on after a bit of controversy. So,
well, he's always had the controversy's been around. For whatever reason, I don't really care.
No.
But the decision to drop himself was a very interesting one.
Yeah.
The week after being given the vest.
Yep.
And look, I don't think it's something that can be glossed over either. It is an ego hit to be handed the vest,
Yep.
no matter who you are, but
Yep.
certainly a player of his stature. And he said, "Look, I want to. If form's my problem, let
Yep.
me go play a full game."
Yep.
There's a certain amount of humility about that.
Yeah.
And apparently went back and killed it and straight back in, and he's been great since then.
Yeah.
He's not going to be the key forward or a key midfielder. He's a pinch hitter,
Yeah.
and he's a role player, you'd say in basketball terms,
Yeah.
playing it to a T.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think with someone like that, where they are in their career, they're not going to necessarily be a key player week in, week out, but they can have a key 5 minutes that changes a game.
Absolutely, and that's what you do. You pop up and kick a quick, 2 or 3 goals here. He's
Yeah.
had a couple of games where he's kicked multiple goals.
Yeah, and then set a few up too.
Yeah, and the body's obviously doing all right because he's played 9 out of the 11 games.
Yeah, and he just looks good playing. He
Yeah.
just looks agile, not
hampered.
Yeah, exactly.
He's still, I mean, he's going to have the old man niggles.
Yeah.
That's part and parcel of being an old man.
And I mean, you adapt your game to sort of accommodate those niggles in the end.
Yeah, and
They call it experience, I think.
you manage it during the week
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But look, he's demanded his place in the 22. There was times last year where that wasn't the case.
Yeah, and a tough 22 to get into as well. Like
Absolutely.
we said, it was hard picking a top 3.
Yeah, it's been such a very even spread with nobody, besides the top 2, nobody else is really, screaming for all Australian selection or anything like that.
Yeah.
The most improved,
I had Tommy Mitchell.
Tommy Mitchell.
I thought he's done pretty well for a third-year player. 7 games in, I think what does our stat sheet say? He's cracked 200 possessions already.
Yeah,
out of 7 games. So
I think he's the second highest disposal average.
he's too.
Spot on 29 disposals a game. That's a lot of ball.
It is. For only 7 games as well. I think third year is the year where you really prove what you're capable of in earnest.
He's a player that is clearly too good for the NEFL.
Yeah.
I think he was averaging 40s and 50 touches a game, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But with such a hard midfield to break in,
Yeah.
I think that he needs more opportunities anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no point putting him in and taking him out, putting him in and taking him out.
Yep.
He's good enough to be there. You've got to put the hours into him.
Yeah, exactly.
And put the games into him. It was a danger to lose him at the end of last year, but he signed on.
Yep.
He's in there.
It's good list management work by whoever had those conversations because a lot of big ins and your cross-town rivals looking pretty damn good for someone like that to slip into.
And there's certainly a lot of Melbourne-based clubs that wouldn't mind him running around in the midfield as well.
Absolutely.
I also put Sam Reid.
Yeah.
He was a guy who was in a little bit of trouble with his spot in the side.
Yeah.
You got the Bondi billionaires down forward.
Yeah.
The 2 key backs have been solid.
Yeah.
So is he a pinch hitting ruckman, or you've got the Canadian Mike Pike?
Yeah.
Is always going to be the number 1 ruckman.
Yep.
What's Sam Reid do?
Well,
they've moved him onto a wing.
Yep.
He's very mobile. He's got a good gas tank now.
Yeah.
I think he's found his place.
And I think he's just found some consistency in that role as well, where you can sort of. Well, I'm guessing you're a bit more solid in that area where you're going to be consistently playing that role and not change around as much.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to think. He knows what he's going to do week in, week out. You're going to be the third man up.
Yep, and you can anticipate what you need to do in that game to change it. I think it's I'm guessing it'd be easy to visualize a game and what you're going to do, the impact you're going to have if you know what your role is going to be for the entire match.
Something that you can plan on. And look, he's playing that role to a T. He takes some nice grabs too.
Yeah,
he was really good against Hawthorn.
Yep, and look, Mike Pike's not getting any younger either. So
no. And the other most improved I put was Jetta.
Yeah,
Lewis Jetta.
Yep.
I was really impressed. A few games. He's not the fastest player in the AFL anymore, and he certainly had that claim at one stage.
Yep.
But he's not slow.
Yeah.
But something's, I don't know if it's just I've noticed it, but he has an extra long leg on him now. You're like,
really?
banging him in from 60 and clearing the line off a couple of steps.
Damn.
More than once. So it's another string to his bow.
So he got excited by a big plugger getting stuck into the Hall of Fame or something.
It might be that he's got
Maybe he had a word in his ear or something.
he's got legend status and goes, mate, here's how they go.
Yeah, this is how you do it, son.
It'd be good if he tries to unleash the barrel a few times.
There we
So
go.
I reckon Lewis Jetty could just about clear halfway.
Yeah, bloody oath.
Okay. So next we usually ask how much danger is the coach in. I think it's a bit of a moot point.
Yeah, I think so.
It's 0.
Danger of falling down the stairs on the way out of the coach's box, I think.
Yeah, there's no problem with Horse. He's very secure. I don't think the Swans have finished outside the top 4 in his reign, and I don't think they will.
No.
For the next foreseeable future. So yeah, there's not really anything there. I mean, their only coaching danger is losing Stewie Jew to a head coach role at somewhere else.
Yep.
And I know they're very keen to hang on to him. They blocked his move to Melbourne as a head assistant.
Yep.
But I don't see Longmire going anywhere soon. So their only danger is he wants to sit in the big chair right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think we found with teams that are doing lots of effort deep in the finals, consistency across their coaching staff and their staff is key.
Yeah.
Because especially with certain strategies and game plans, you lose those strategies when you lose a member of your staff because they take all that knowledge with them.
Or you have to amend it because you're like, well, we can't run
Yep.
Adam Simpson's plan because Adam Simpson's not our coach anymore. And he knows it, so we've got to change it.
Exactly.
They've held on to their assistant coaches consistently since he's come along.
And I think that goes a long way in the results.
Yeah. So which players are in trouble for their career?
I don't think there's too many. Just for the sake of having to choose someone, I chose Mike Pike just because getting a bit old and a bit of competition coming up for his spot. And
How old is he now? I think he's 28 or 29.
Yeah, about that.
84.
Where are we?
No, 30.
30.
Oh, I didn't know he was over 30.
Yeah.
And certainly for a big man. Look, there's been a few times where he's held his own and a few times where he's looked like a liability.
Yep.
And, when he's played over 100 games now, so you can't say, he's new to the game and all that kind of gear. Like, okay, you are Canadian, you came to the game late, but 100 games in now, you should know it.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll look to how he benefits what their game plan is going to be for, let's say, 5 years when they're looking to... They're not going to have a rebuilding phase, but they're going to have a transition phase for sure.
Transition is certainly what they've done.
Yeah.
And the other thing with Mike Pike is, obviously, with the high-paying forwards they've got, means they lost Mumford. And if they had Mumford in the middle right now, I mean, they're a clean premiership favourite. There's just no doubt.
Yep, absolutely.
But besides that, he's injured. I put Tippett in there as well.
Yeah.
Tippett was obviously the first high-paid forward they got.
Yeah.
And you can't say they got value out of him for the dollars they're paying.
I think that would be the key to his danger, would be that he's expensive.
Yeah.
And you make clear a lot of cap room if you get rid of someone like Tippett.
But who's going to pay Tippett's wages? Like, I think his last year this year on his contract, I think.
I have no idea.
Or next year. It's one or the other. So if they're going to offload him to clear up cap space, which they won't do.
No.
But if they were, you've got to find somebody else that's willing to take up that contract. Otherwise, you're going to be paying him to play against you.
Stick him down Adelaide. They could use someone like Tippett right now.
I think there'll be a few Adelaide fans that would love that. Oh, if he went to Port.
Oh yes.
Talk about he'd have to be a fly in, fly out. He couldn't live.
He'd actually have to literally live in Port Adelaide. No one wants to do that.
He's never played against Adelaide in Adelaide since he's left.
No, he hasn't either. They always give him a Windy Hill flu or some shit, don't they?
I think only once they've been scheduled to play there, and he hasn't played there.
Yep.
But look, I don't think he's going anywhere. But he certainly hasn't returned on the dollars. He had the 6-month suspension when he started, and then injuries as well. He kicked a few goals in his first year, but in and out of the side, and there's been more than once where he's been just blanketed. Yeah,
and it all depends on how he's going to fit into someone else's team as well, and what they're prepared to give up for him, or what they're going to get for him.
Yeah, like I said, I can't see it happen, but we decided we had to pick somebody, and that's who we got.
Yep.
Where are their danger games for the rest of the year?
I've said West Coast, playing over in West Coast.
Yeah, I did too.
What round was that one in?
Round 17.
Because, I mean, you're looking at a team that's just above you. You could be fighting for that spot for the home second chance.
It could be, are you playing home in the first week of the finals, or are you playing away in the first week of finals?
I mean, it could come down to that game being the decider or around about that period. And that's when you're looking to set your train in motion to be finals orientated. It could be just a little warm-up test for them.
It's not late enough in the season to be resting players either.
Yeah.
It's one you've got to move. And look, that game could decide whether they finish second or third.
Yeah. And we look at what that period is for them. You got Hawks week before.
Yeah.
Then you got Adelaide the week after, and then Geelong. It's a tough period when you're going to be fighting for second spot, so that game could be key.
Absolutely. Both those games, they're the two I had. Round 16, round 17.
Yeah.
16 they host Hawthorn, and then 17 they travel to West Coast.
Yeah.
If they go 2-2, 2 wins in those 2 games, they're top 2.
Yep.
There's just no doubt about it. If they lose both those games, I can't see how they can finish top 2.
Yeah, I agree.
And if they split it, then it's going to come down to percentages and stuff like that. And I think that either West Coast or Hawthorn might catch them.
Yeah.
Because both of them have such a healthy percentage, and West Coast have such a good draw.
Yeah, and with the teams who are fighting for those top 4 spots, like home ground advantage is really, really going to be a factor.
When they're interstate teams, especially if you got 2 Western Australian teams holding the 2, it means you've got to make that long journey over there. And then it becomes a scheduling nightmare for the AFL.
Yep, absolutely. And you're not playing at the G, which is important in September, October.
Yep. October being the grand final this year, yeah, good point. So where do you have the Swans finishing?
I've gone third. I think this top 3 will stay as it is. So,
you reckon West Coast will stay up there?
I reckon they will, yeah. I think they've done enough groundwork in the first half of the season that you always got to account for a couple of silly results towards the end when you're up that high and you're either fighting for that second spot or you're guaranteed the third or fourth spot. It's time you start resting players or other teams start resting players, so...
Yeah, it's certainly... I've got West Coast and Sydney both battling it out for the number 2 spot, and I think Sydney might get there.
Yep.
But like we said, if it comes down to percentage, then West Coast have got a real advantage there.
Yep.
The other danger game might be round 21 against the Giants.
Yeah.
Not because I think the Giants are done. They've got too many injuries to key players.
Yep.
But it could be a game where the Sydney go out there and need 100 points.
Yeah, true.
Or something ridiculous just to bump up that percentage.
Yeah.
They've got a great run home,
Yep.
being Giants, Saints, and then the Suns.
Yeah.
So they could be, all right, boys.
Speaking of percentage,
we need to win. We need to win big, which means in those late season games you can't be resting everybody.
Yep. And I mean, they got firepower up forward that it can kick percentage boosting margins.
Absolutely.
So, it could be a point where they say, look, attack, all out attack, because the worst we can do is finish third. The best we do is get that home final, finish in second. So,
and make somebody else travel to us.
Yep.
It's such a big thing.
Yeah.
In the first week, and if you win the first week, it means you got a home prelim.
Yep. Get that week off too.
Yeah, which they're not a young side. They've got a couple of aging bodies, especially down back.
Yep.
That's really going to help them. And you've got to say down back, they've covered for the Malcheski loss over the free agency period.
Yeah, it's almost looked like a genius move.
The way he's
One up out of him.
He's retired a year early.
Yeah,
he's
pretty
still
much.
playing.
Yeah.
It looks like up there, but he was a very popular player at the Swans. That they've covered for him well.
Yep. And I mean, he was a bit of a sneaky little recruit for them anyway. He's sort of mature age and came out all guns blazing, played really well. All
Australians.
Yeah.
He kicked 2 freakish goals in the 2012 grand final that got the Swans over the line. So, you can't hate him for leaving for stupid money in the twilight of his career.
Exactly right.
Anybody would do it.
Yeah.
And look, just the only other thing we haven't talked about is Franklin. He's their leading goal kicker, but it's almost for him, if he's not winning the Coleman, he's underperforming. Or that's the perception.
Yeah.
And it's simply not true.
Nah.
He's playing so much further up the ground now. He covers so much area.
Yeah.
His marking in the last 2 years has been better than his best at Hawthorn.
Yeah.
And he's still 34, 35 goals, so he's still kicking his 3 goals a game.
Yeah.
It's not a bad effort.
I think it's harder to cover Buddy from, say, the wing to pretty much the forward 50 than it is to cover him inside the 50-metre arc. So I think he's more dangerous out there running towards the goal than leading out from goal taking marks.
he's very slow to get rid of the ball. Like when he gets the ball, he's not a get it and give it.
Yeah.
He needs to wind up and think.
And take that hit and then give it off.
And give the don't argue and away he goes.
Yeah.
But if he gets that 2 meters of space, one, you can't catch him.
Yeah.
And two, that raking left foot
Yeah.
as a field kick is so damaging.
Yeah.
So long and accurate.
And the thing is, it's like he's already anticipated the slice or whatever angle he's going to kick it with,
If he was a golfer, he's perfect around the dog legs.
Yeah, exactly. It's like almost Happy Gilmore just running up and crack. But yeah, he seems to be able to know which way it's going to slice or going to curve before he's even kicked it.
I mean, his set shots have always been like that, but he's added to his field kicking.
Yeah. And it's almost like as soon as you see him kick it, you already know whether it's going to go in or not.
Yep. So anyway, the Swans just haven't really been pushed that hard yet and haven't needed to, and just trundling along.
Yep.
They're going deep into September and maybe October again. I've got them playing off in the grand final as it stands now.
Yep.
All right, so it's a good first half of the year for the Swans.
That's the Swans so far.
Cheers.
Mate.